Good morning, everyone. Good late morning. It is 10 a.m. I am on time, but I know that several of you, as well as myself, have been up for several hours because we're in the middle of the next 90 days challenge. And that means that we wake up an hour earlier than we usually do. So I'm glad to see that some of you are starting to tune in and that you're here. And yes, I'm in another different spot. It's like a Where's Waldo situation right now, isn't it? It's a little bit of like, where's Kristen going to be today? But hey, I'm Kristen. You are in the right place. This is called Parent Power Hour, and we'll be spending the next few minutes together doing things that we can better improve ourselves so that we can show up and be the best version of ourselves for those that we love and care for the most. Most of us are in the middle of the pandemic here, and we are either on full lockdown with our families in our homes, or we're maybe trying to figure this out on our own. Maybe you've got some pets around, but that's what this time is all about, is actually connecting. Connecting to yourself, connecting to your purpose, connecting so that you are a better version of yourself. And my example of this right now is I'm always trying to better what I'm bringing to you all. And right now that means changing locations often. So you can probably tell we're in not my 2-year-old nephew's room anymore. We're now starting to get into my space, my personal space, which, by the way, I heard through the grapevine that MySpace, you guys are like my age, right? MySpace is coming back. What? Can you guys believe that? That was like, at least for me, that was like college, right? Oh my gosh. So I don't know if you were around or if you remember MySpace, but I mean, it was like the pre-Facebook, right? We were like, oh my gosh, we can connect with each other and we can like share music. This is also Napster time, right? Oh my goodness, I love it. Nothing like a good flashback, right? But here we are. This is Parent Power Hour. This is episode 17, and that means we've been doing this, and we're going into our 4th week. And this is brought to you by newminds.tv. And newminds.tv is a place where you can go to get some cool stuff for your kids, and then also to find some power, some strength, some reconnecting, some parenting tips, some self-help tips for yourself as an adult. So get comfortable. If you're watching this later, even better, because then maybe you've had a chance to live your day and you've got the kids busy doing whatever they're doing. Hey, Ben, good morning. I see that you're here. Glad you're here. Thanks for coming in with me. I think some of our usual team, it's awesome. It's amazing things are happening here for us at New Minds Enrichment. I feel like every week, I know. I realize I'm saying this, I feel like a lot. So that's also how I'm trying to better myself. Not just location, but how I speak. But our team is always, every week there's a new opportunity. There's a new way that we're trying to figure out, and we're learning how we can bring you the best content to bring you not only amazing things for yourself like this in Parent Power Hour, but also amazing things for your kiddos. And so we've got a lot of our team that's starting to spread out, and we've got some that are going live right now with one-on-one or small group lessons with kids, which is incredible. And so as you can imagine, that takes a lot of background planning, and we are not a school district. We don't have an IT team yet. we will get one eventually, because right now it's like this person and like 3 other people, and we're all figuring it out. So that's why I'm talking about this right now, is to say that our team is up to great things, and also less of my peeps are showing up here during the lives. But so I bring all of that back to say I really appreciate, Ben, that you're showing up here, helping me out, and gonna chime in. I know you'll chime in with awesome things, as well as things to loosen things up. I've been learning about myself that I can get really serious, and intense when I'm in these like self-help, I don't want to call it a hole, because that sounds like something that's negative, this realm, right? I get really super intense, and it's so great to have some humor, or to bring in the funny song references, or those sorts of things that end up popping up with the comments. And that's going to come from you all when you show up, even if it's recorded. I'd love to hear your input. even on the comments, if you're watching here on Facebook, afterwards, you can still pop in, and we'd love to hear your comments about thoughts that have maybe giving you a perspective change, or maybe that you have tried out with yourself and tried out with your family, as far as like the way that we're approaching and interacting and communicating. So yesterday we talked about, let's do a quick little recap, excuse me. Yesterday we talked about basically letting it go. Let it all go. The question I asked you yesterday to start was, do you have it all together? Do you have it together? I love that phrase. It's so vague, and you hear some, maybe it's even in your vocabulary. You'll say it to your kids, or you'll, say it. I'm mostly thinking about like parenting and then teaching. Like, come on, you guys, get it together. You're falling apart over here. You're a mess. Your room's a mess. You guys are doing the small group activity in the lesson. I'm thinking like, old school days when we used to be physically together. Come on, you guys, just get it together. What does that mean? What does that mean to have it together? And Lord knows parents feel that pressure, right? That parent pressure to have it all together. And I mean, I can go a million different ways with that thought, as I'm sure you could as well. Something that's really been rolling around in the back of my head, and I'll see if I can weave it into the real review of yesterday. But something that's been rolling around in the back of my head a lot is this opportunity that we have to shift education. And I know that many of you are reading and you're experiencing a lot of the same things that we are here. But for me, I mean, I've always thought, yes, the archaic way, the systematic way, the way that we have designed public education and even private, just education for our kids is so based on such an archaic model. And I'm not going to go deep into it, but if you have the time, or if you know what I'm talking about, Sir Ken Robinson's, TED Talk, I think it was like 2008 or 10 or somewhere in there, that it really got really huge about, our model of education is based off of training people to be on the line, workers in an industrial revolution, for lack of a better. I'm totally oversimplifying. Recognize. Call me out. I'm totally oversimplifying. But here we are. And I've always thought, like, since I first learned about this history of education, even before Sir Ken Robinson, when you're training to be a teacher, you have to also take all of these history of education and philosophy of education classes in your undergrad and your certification. If you go the traditional path, I'm just going to call it a path. We won't have a pronunciation discussion right now. But when you do that, you learn all those things. And even since then, when I first learned that's that timing, and in our especially in American history of industrial revolution, needing to have more people out of their farms and into factories. And that's what, we got to prepare these little 7 and 8-year-olds to be factory workers, because they're going to do that when they're 10. And so we got to start them now when they're 4, 5, 6, and 7, so that when they're 10, they can be on the line making whatever car part that is for the first time ever going to be mass produced. Because if you think about it, I know I'm tangenting a lot, but don't worry, I'm going to come back to it. But I mean, even in my grandfather, he is 87. He's 87. So I'm not going to try to do the math, but early 30s, mid 30s, he was born, 1930s. And in rural Kentucky, we grew up calling it the country. And of course, now when I think about country, I think like, America. It's different. But in rural Kentucky, tobacco farms. And so by the time he was 9, no school, right? He was, I think, 2nd grade. If my mom pops in on here, she won't. She's teaching this morning. But, by the time he was 9, he wasn't in school anymore because he had to work on the family farm. And so we had this, that's where our current education system is based off of, which is, here we are, 2020, our 8 and 9-year-olds are not going and working on tobacco farms. And yet we're still treating education the same. So to bring it back, what I've always thought when I kind of learned that, what was happening in history and how our public education system or education in America, um, the seed of that began, I even remember thinking then as a young teacher, a new learner of this fact, like, A of all, this has to change, and B of all, whatever it seems, it's B of all, it's going to be impossible to change, and C of all, if it does change, it's because something cataclysmic will happen. Here we are. We have the chance now. We have the chance to totally change education. And so that's been part of what's been rolling around in my head, and rolling around about how we are all having these really big conversations about how homeschooling is now, and we're offering you as many tips as we can here on New Minds Enrichment. And I've said parts of this to some people on our team, but not really in this sort of way. So, I might be dropping some bombs here, but I'm just going to lay it out there. Like, I would even venture to say that we're not doing homeschooling right now. Nobody's doing homeschooling except for the people who have intentionally decided, just like Ben had a special guest yesterday on the In the Day session of newminds.tv, episode 16. Go watch it. It's amazing. And an amazing homeschool expert. And like he sort of ended his conversation with her is that, she chose to homeschool her children. The majority of us are not choosing that. And so this isn't homeschool. You're not bringing school into the home. What this is, of course, is home learning. And I would even argue that isn't all learning most naturally and most authentically meant to be home learning. I mentioned this a few episodes back, but every parent is their child's first teacher. Every one of you are your children's first teachers. When they were infants, you taught them how to eat. You taught them how to take a bottle. That is the essence of teaching, instead of, a checklist of, some random target of learning that, not random, but some calculated target of learning that the state has decided is important for your child. And so here we are, you have this opportunity to be naturally what you were in the first place when you became a parent. And I would encourage you to let go of this pressure that you're putting on yourself. And I'm going to say that with confidence because I hear that in the comments. I hear that in the questions that come into us about how do I handle this? How do I handle it? Because you're trying to be a teacher when you actually already are. So instead of trying to fabricate these learning opportunities for your child, don't fabricate them, look for them. Keep your eyes open to them. And that's why you're here right now in Parent Power Hours, because if you are more open to how you can better yourself, and you are in a place of calm, and you're connected with your purpose, and you're connected with who you are, and the why that you have, and the strength and the capabilities and all of that you already have within you, then you can be more fully present for your children. And instead of obsessing over finishing that math worksheet, you can find and you can take the suggestions that, Justin so practically gives in the Start Today episodes that happened before this at 9 a.m. about ways to speak to your child that empowers your child, that gives this equal sense of, and I don't mean empowering in the sense of like, it's your life, go do what you are going to do. No, they're not all, maybe a high schooler, you could have that sort of very directive tone with them. But for most of us out here, especially those of us who are, you find yourself physically drained because you're also trying to do your job and you're also trying to parent your children, which you think also means, which you've been told, we've all been told that we do our jobs, we parent our children, and now we teach our children. So I'm inviting you to consider, I'm inviting you to maybe have a perspective shift to say, I do my job, I parent my child. When you're doing both of those things with balance and presence, then you are teaching your children. And you don't have to be a teacher because you already are one. I'm not sure if I'm getting my point across clearly. That's why I kind of keep that's the teacher in me. Keep re-explaining things 7 different times. And that's probably another reason why these end up going a lot longer than I ever planned for them. Every day I'm like, okay, 20 minutes, Kristen. You're going to get it done in 20 minutes. And I just keep re-explaining because when I'm in front of my students, I will not really see them receiving what I'm saying, and they're not showing me signs of understanding. So I keep re-explaining and finding all the different ways. And I used to teach music, so that means I taught first or kindergarten through 5th graders, so 5-year-old to 10-year-olds. And so the way you have to speak to children in that age range it's very different, right? One 45-minute section, I would have 5-year-olds, and I'd be, we're singing a song about kitty cats and we're crawling around on the floor together and we're all, in this imaginative play space. And then the next class after them would be these 10 and 11-year-old 5th graders that are way too cool for school, right? And you can't be crawling around on the floor and imaginative play. I mean, I wish they were still, but society, so they didn't. But I bring all that to say, the way that you are, the way that I'm trying to talk to you and giving you lots of different ways of considering things is the way I would with my students, because until I kind of see some oh, yeah, yes, I grab that. And then also to give you an opportunity to grab some things that I'm saying. And if I can say them in a lot more different ways, there's a lot more opportunity for you to grab them, because I don't know what's going to click for you. So that's my purpose here, is to offer you as many ways to consider things. I will throw out as many, different phrases or approaches, thought processes, images. I'll try out all those things so that they can appeal, and hopefully it's something that you can grab one too. So let's check in. Yeah, so Ben says, just having all of our cats in the same neighborhood counts as together these days. Yeah, that's really good. Doug says, I have it together, but I forgot where I put it. But I like that. That's a good one. We did see, it takes some humor in it for us to get here together. So when we were talking about having it all together yesterday, what the points, spoiler alerts, if you were with us, nobody has it together, right? There's this whole thing, right, about socially, about if we appear as though we have it together, then we've got it together, and that's something for other people to be envious of for us. And that's there's not a whole lot of value in that. And I also hope that the media, the social media that you're, even the TV, we're just going to blanket it, the media that you are allowing into your life doesn't give you that feeling that you don't have it together and everybody else does, because that's just not true. And so one way to do that is to find a way to redefine what comes off as your worry and your fears about how you might be perceived, or how things, the status of the reality that we live in at this moment. And this can go for any challenge, any crisis that you're experiencing at any point in life, any change, any hard thing, because there will always be hard things. And I also can't say this enough, there will always be hard things, because that's how change happens. Change doesn't happen without some sort of, metamorphosis, some sort of growth, some sort of having to, put on a different size of something, right? Because if you don't go through that growth, if you don't go through that challenge, then you're not actually changing. So the idea there is to find some ways to address your emotional negativity and to transform those thoughts, right? That there's no power in worrying. And ultimately, how we ended last week was that when we start to generate the energy that we must have, during crisis. Part of that is also generating joy, is bringing the joy to your family. And there's nothing more that worry does except for stealing the joy. And we're going to kind of go back into that today because there's something else that steals your joy, and that's having a disconnect from your purpose. When you can probably think back on some times of when you're like in the middle of it, and maybe it was yesterday, maybe it was this morning, and you're like, well, what's the point? What's the actual point? Like, I'm trying to figure out what's the purpose of all of this. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to put together all of my thoughts. And I 100% have done this because, again, we're trying to find meaning in our experience, right? We're trying to find that purpose. And so that's where I start the question off today is, what are you going to do with all of this? Right? Like, I know that that's starting to emerge in some of the conversations that I'm witnessing as far as the comments, as well as the shift a little bit that I see happening in social media and the things that people are putting out. They're starting to think about the light at the end of the tunnel, and while we, us, Parent Power, our community, while we know we can't control the outcome, what we can do is have a perspective that lets us know, or that keeps us grounded, so that no matter when, where, or how things end up, when we come out of all of this, people are already starting to talk about that, right? Like, when you come out of it. And so we have too. And so that's a big question that I've been starting to hear people say, well, when we get done with this, what are we all going to do? What are we going to do with it? What's it going to be like? How are we going to get our jobs back? How are we going to get the economy back on track? How are we going to get our kids back in school? How are we going to, because we're already starting, we're not out of it. We're not out of the woods, but we also know that we have to draw the map of how to get out of the woods before we can figure out how to get out. So the place I'd like for us to go now is to stay connected to our purpose, right? And that we find purpose in everything that we do, by asking ourselves, why is this? Why is me making lunch for my kids? I always use that as an example. I don't know why. I think because you used to send your kids to school, and so they would have lunch at school. You would make your lunch maybe the night before, but now it's lunchtime. Maybe you're still doing that. Good for you. That's awesome. Actually, that's a pretty good idea. I think I might. Yeah. Anyway. So why is whatever challenge you're experiencing, why is this important right now? Why is forcing my child to do their math worksheet important right now? Even the act of pausing and asking yourself that question, you may not have a clear answer going into it, or maybe you find the answer by just stopping and asking yourself that question. So why is it important that why is it important that my child does their math worksheet right now? Answer that for yourself. I'm not going to throw out some possible answers out there for you, because I know these are things that you must answer for yourself. And it could be that. It could be, why is it important right now that I take a break from my laptop and go connect with my children? Why is it important for me? Why is it important right now that we don't let this squabble that's happening on our team meeting via virtual? Why is it important that this squabble doesn't totally overtake everything and all the work that we're doing? And a lot of times we get into these sorts of things, and we put the self first, and we start thinking about, he's not understanding me, and she's not understanding me, and I've got to control my child. I've got to make sure that my child is finishing that math worksheet, because at the end of the day, we've got to click send on all these things. And so what we end up doing is putting ourselves first, instead of asking ourselves, why is this important for me right now? Why is this challenge that I'm going through? You fill in the blank. Why is blank important right now? Asking yourself, and you may not have the answer at that moment, yet the simple act of pausing and asking yourself, why is blank important right now? Why is me not having a job and looking for one? Why is that important right now? Why is it important? Why is my time, now that I don't have a job and I'm not sure if I'm going to get a job anytime soon, how is this, here we go, how is this for me? And that's probably one of the hardest questions to ask when you're in the middle of a crisis. And again, you may not have the answer right away, but the simple act that you're working, that you are considering shifting your perspective instead of complaining, instead of, well, I heard this on the news and now this is going to happen and now I know that that's going to happen and I'm, we're probably going to lose this, and then, that whole scarcity mentality is going to start to kick in again. And instead of going there and saying and looking at all those facts, which you do, that is, no, I'm not saying worry about them, but I am saying, yes, be a strategic thinker about them. And while you're strategically thinking about how the news and whether or not you're going to go out and get groceries, strategically think about those things. I'm also inviting you to ask yourself, how is this experience that we're having as a family? How is this crisis that we're in as a community, as a nation, as a world? How is this for us? Because life doesn't happen to us. Life happens for us. Whether you have a higher power or not that you connect with, we are still in this moment of time of reality together, and we can decide together that this life, this experience that we're having is for us, instead of passively sitting back and being like, well, that, that just happened to me. Instead of, we went through all of that, and I'm talking like, however long from now when we're out of it, saying, we're going to look back on it and we're going to say, well, what was the purpose of all of that? What was the point? What was the point? Because now we're back here, we're back in school, we're, doing the same state testing thing that we said that we weren't going to do, and here we are now. What's the point? Instead of all of that, instead of asking yourself, instead of going there in your conversations as well, this takes practice. All of this is practice. This is not, and I'm not doing anything that is also not hard for me. For all of us, it takes practice. It is, especially when you're surrounded by all of the negativity, external negativity, external people's worries, people trying to unpack everything. It takes a lot of practice, and you're not going to be this 100% centered human being all the time. None of us are. But what we can do instead is ask ourselves, what can I, or what will I be able to do? So you could ask yourself this. Let me be clear. What will I be able to do in the future because of this thing that's happening? That's going to help you go a little further in your asking yourself, how is this for me? The question is, what will I be able to do in the future because of this that we're experiencing? What am I going to be able to do in 2022 because of what's happening right now? What's my family going to be like? And this comes back to that connecting to your why and to your vision. But in 2022, in 2021, in 2030, whatever, I like to kind of think a little bit more closer to the current. That way I don't feel so overwhelmed by, oh my God, 10 years from now, who knows what's going to happen? We're going to have Corona times 30. No, could go there really quickly. See, I just went boom. It was so quick. But bring it a little closer, bring it a little back home, and be calm. First of all, go through all of our centering practices that we've done here, and asking ourselves, what will I be able to do in the future because of this that's happening to me? For me personally, I know that in the future I'll be able to do more live Facebooks because of this right now, because of this crisis that we're in, because of this pandemic that we're experiencing. I will be able in the future to more confidently and with practice and to have honed my skills in my setup and my lighting and my sound and my blah, blah, blah. I'll be able to be better at that in the future. So that's how I am using how this is for me. I will, be able to more clearly articulate my thoughts because I'm having to do this in front of you. And my intention is to be as clear as possible for you so that you can continue to grow, so that I can serve you better. And all of this brings us perspective. Asking yourself, how is this for me? And what can I or will I be able to do in the future because of what's happening here? And that is going to continue to reinforce your purpose, your perspective. It's going to continue to help you stay connected to your purpose. And when we have more connection to our purpose, we have more opportunity and we can continue to move forward in finding our joy, in creating our joy. And that whole concept of having perspective plays into our mindfulness. So our perspective paired with our mindfulness, as well as how capable or able we are to manage our emotional activity, to manage that emotional negativity, that worry, right? Yesterday, I reframed the thought that worry is simply emotional negativity at its core. It's that we've said we've associated and we've decided that feeling of worry is connected with a certain emotion that we have, an emotional response, which we unpack that as well. If you're curious to know more about this kind of feeling versus emotion concept, that's a few episodes back. Look for the title. I should write down on a big whiteboard. Here's the title of all of these. I do have everything in a list, but not on a whiteboard, because I start thinking about this stuff and I'm like, oh, it's all connected. And then I want to give you the tools to go back and find it. And then I misspeak. So I apologize for that. But here we are. I'm actually wrapping up. I'm getting in here, you guys. I'm doing it. I'm less than an hour was my goal today. Less than 45 minutes actually was my goal today. So here we are. We're wrapping up. And so the final point I'd like to make is that when we have perspective and mindfulness and the ability to manage our emotional activity, what we end up with those three things in synergy, in I don't want to say balance, because they tend to come and go, right? But what we end up when those three things are in action at the same time: perspective, mindfulness, ability to manage your emotional activity, that's calm. That's calm. And you can't learn to surf if you're nervous. You can't learn to surf if you're worried about falling off the surfboard. And what you can do is, if you find that place of calm, if you have your perspective, if you're mindful about your inner thoughts, if you're mindful about all the things that mindfulness is, and you have the ability to manage your emotional activity, that's Brene Brown's definition of calm. And I love that when I heard it. I was like, yes. That is letting it go. That is finding where you put all the stuff that you thought you had together. There you go, Doug. That's where it is. It's in your calm. I know it was a joke. But when I was reading that, or actually I heard it, she has a new podcast out, which is really cool, that she's doing that. Anyway, I heard that on her most recent podcast episode, and I paused it, and I took a recording of it on my phone. I love her voice. She's from Houston, or she's from Texas in general. And so she just has this really, strong, I know I'm touching my eyes. Don't worry, everybody. My hands are clean. But she has this really strong, accent. It's not not that kind of Texas, but there's something about her voice. So I like hearing it. And so I recorded it and I wrote it down as well. And I'm going to say it again for you, that calm is when we have perspective, mindfulness, and the ability to manage emotional activity. When we're calm, we can learn to surf. We can't control the waves, but we can learn to surf. I hope you find this helpful today. I hope that you find this giving you some power and a way to be grounded in your thoughts if you're moving forward for the rest of the day today here in the Dallas area, or if you're finishing up your day and tomorrow you're going to start all over again. Every single day is a fresh start. I was just looking at my hanging calendar next to my bed. I know it's a weird place to have a calendar, but that's another story for another time. And literally every night when I turn off my light, I see that it's hanging just above my bedside table. It says every single day is a fresh start. Maybe we should call this the Fresh Start Parent Power Hour. Ugh, it's too wordy. We won't do that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope, as always, that you found something real. I hope always to be real with you. And I hope that you found something that inspired you, that you learned something new today. And no matter what, that your passions, that you stay connected to them and that you continue to pursue them, because that will become your talent. That will become something that just naturally people come up to you, your family comes up to you, all those people in your house, your cats, your dogs, whoever they are, come up to you and they say, wow, you're glowing. You're different today. Or why are you grinning in the kitchen? And you're like, I've got all my perspective, all my mindfulness, and I have the ability to manage my emotional activity. Get out there, you guys. Learn to surf. Stay calm. And as always, we'd love to hear from you in your comments and direct messages. We will know better how to serve you and the content that you're looking for, and that's going to provide strength for you as you navigate these unusual waters, as you see all the waves coming up to your shores. By liking us, following us. If you're watching this live on Facebook, of course, you guys probably already know, but I'm going to say it. The more you like us, the more you follow us and comment, that's how the, little Facebook gremlins understand that you like what we're doing. And so they'll push us out and they'll help us to share with more people. Have some watch parties, share our videos. I said I was going to be under 45 minutes, but now I'm like, oh, I've got like 7 minutes where I can promo what's going on. I won't do that, you guys. I won't do it. But I just wanted to put that out there to remind you that, we're here to share the love, and we love when you share the love. So keep doing that, keep staying strong, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.